Hey, how's it going? My name's Donovan Patrick Mahoney, and this is my vlog. So, yeah, I was thinking about stuff to talk about, and I was thinking about things like moments in my life that really started to change me. Um, because there was a point in my life where I just was fully unaware of myself, and I had no idea how the world experienced me or what I was really doing and how my thoughts were affecting me. So in 2007, I was in this supportive recovery house, and I remember like every day I loved going to group, and it was fun because um, just having like 30 men talking, like, so the main counselor would start the group with some sort of topic, and it was usually directed at somebody, and then because we're all human beings, I didn't realize this till years later. That's why group therapy was so powerful, is because we're relating to each other. So like if Bob's going through, you know, some anxiety issue about girls, and that comes up, I'm a man, I've had anxiety, like, so all of a sudden I'm just relating right away. But anyway, so I always really liked those groups and engaging in they always talked. I love talking. And partially one of the reasons why I wanted to start this vlog. But so on this one particular day, though, I went to group, and I was going through a bunch of stuff, or at least that's what I thought. And I just really felt like my whole world was caving in. And so group was going on, and I was trying to communicate to the whole group with as much body language as I could muster, that I was really struggling. So I was, slouched down in my chair, and, I was looking at the floor. I wasn't looking at anybody. And towards the end of the group, the counselor turns to me and he goes, "So what the fuck is going on with you?" And like, I was like, yes, like I'm being acknowledged. And I sat up and I was like, well, I ran into my mom yesterday, and she was at my neighbor, this kid that I grew up with, who is now an adult, his funeral, and he had killed himself. And about 6 months earlier, I'd just about died. I'd been in a coma for a month. I'd overdosed. And anyways, my mom grabbed the person that I was with and said, "Thank you for saving my son's life." And I just felt horrible. I felt horrible that Serge was dead. I was like, I was really like aware of how close I was to being dead. I realized like how much my life sucked. At the same time, like, my sister she has this heart condition that basically she would just faint wherever, and didn't matter, and she would smash her head, and it was brutal. And I remember the counselor going, and he was like, so I told him all this stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't get it. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?" And I was like, "Well, I just told you." And he was like, "No, you know what I heard? I heard you want to get loaded. And you know what? We can wrap up this group. I'll give you your first $40 to score. I'll drive you downtown. You can fuck off and relapse and die, and I'll call up your parents and let them know that you decided that you don't want to live anymore." And I was mad. I was like, "What are you talking about? I just told you. And he was like, no, okay, let's start from the beginning. He goes, how'd you sleep last night? And I was like, pretty good. And he goes, better than sleeping behind a dumpster, right? Or sleeping at all, because, a few months ago you were on the street and you weren't sleeping for days, and then you would just fall asleep wherever you were. So, how was the bed? And I kind of smiled, and I was like, it was good. It was a good sleep. And he's like, yeah. And he goes, did you do a chore this morning? And I kind of looked around, because I've been hanging on to this like really easy chore. Like, I just had to like refill the toilet paper in the bathrooms, and it was, and he's like, yeah. He's like, you think we don't know that you got this easy chore? He's like, and he's like, feels good to accomplish stuff. He's like, did you make your bed? And I was like, yeah, I made my bed. And he's like, yeah, it feels good to accomplish stuff, right? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, do you have something to eat this morning? And I was like, yeah. And at the time I was like really into like how unique I was, and I thought it was so cool, because I would take my cereals and I would mix them up, like I'd like Honey Nut Cheerios and fucking Corn Flakes and Rice Krispies, and and so I'm telling the group like about my breakfast, and he's like, and he goes, oh yeah, and you're the guy with the special diet that we buy almond milk for, right? Meanwhile, the guy sitting beside you is paying $7,000 a month or $6,000 a month, and you're here on a fucking welfare bed. But we'll get you your almond milk, pal. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, did you go to a meeting this morning? And at that place, we had to do 2 meetings a day. So we'd go to an NA meeting in the morning and an NA meeting at night. And I said, yeah. And he goes, did you share? And he's like, I bet you shared. And I was like, yeah, I shared. And everyone started laughing. I always loved sharing, and I loved making people laugh. It was like, it made me feel like I had something special, and, like that I wasn't a loser too, and because like my core belief pretty much my whole life is that I was a loser. So anyways, I kind of made fun of like how great my share was in that meeting, and he's like, yeah, I bet you that like changed a bunch of people's lives. And he's like, he goes, so I'm gonna ask you again, how are you doing? And I was like, but then I was like smiling, and I was like, I'm good. And he's like, yeah, you see what I'm saying? He's like, there's things that have happened, but those things aren't happening to you. And it was like the most life-changing moment I can say, like top 5 things that changed my life is just that this guy, like the way that he talked to me and the way that he shocked me into myself, to wake up to this idea that I am not my thoughts, that my mind in the fear of the unknown, so getting sober is like the unknown, is super uncomfortable. And although it knows that using drugs is painful and it's going to cause all these problems, it still feels safe there because it's familiar. And so it's working like in early addiction very subtly to like get back there, because it really doesn't know what's going on. It's like, like, is this, like what's going to happen tomorrow? Like, all these feelings, like they feel really bad. And so, yeah, like I just didn't know that I wasn't my thoughts at that time. And I didn't know that my mind was really working overtime to get back to something familiar, and that I had to work really hard at dissolving these thoughts that were self-defeating, and And what I needed to do to dissolve those self-defeating thoughts was just take an inventory. Like, look around. It's so beautiful out right now. Like, rent is paid. It's the 3rd of the month today. And, like, I got money in the bank. I got this hoodie from my friend's store. I love it. I got this lanyard like a year ago from this place that I worked at that I really enjoyed. I'm shooting right now on an iPhone 11 Pro Max, and it's actually this, I have two. This one's the dedicated vlog camera, and it's on a gimbal, and all these things like I did this, like I've created this, I have air conditioning, I have beautiful curtains that just went up. And so like when I look around my life, that's the truth of what my life is that there's a lot of goodness. And the lie is, that, life sucks, or that interaction that I had at London Drugs where somebody kind of bumped me the wrong way or whatever. That's not the truth, and it just causes me problems. And all that is it's dwelling in the past. So my greatest problems, that was my first lesson in really coming in contact with, my greatest problems are coming from dwelling in the past or tripping out in the future. But when I'm present, when I look around right here, right now, in this moment, I just had, awesome smoothie from Body Energy. I love it. It's almond butter dream. It's so fucking good. Like, that's the truth. That's the goodness. The lie is all this stuff from the past. And so, yeah, so anyways, I just thought I'd share that with you. And so I'm going to wrap it up there. I'd appreciate it in a big way if you'd like this video, and if you're not subscribed, subscribe. And I'm going to continue uploading every day. So thank you for coming and checking out my channel, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. 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 Who says bye? Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.